Hello and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we review the Beths' debut 2018 album, Future Me Hates Me. It's really great, especially for a debut, and I really like it overall. This is the track listing, and these are the tracks added to my playlist, 7 out of 10, so most of them here. This album is definitely really great. Most of the songs here sound interesting and fun, and the quality is pretty high for a debut. A lot of the songs do kind of sound pretty similar to each other, but since they all sound good, it's not really an issue. There could be a little bit more variety beyond the sort of hype up alt rock, which is pretty much every song here, but I do really like the sound, so I'm not really complaining that much. Since most of the songs sound similar, the album flows pretty well, starts off pretty fast, and probably peaks in energy around the middle of the album. The last couple of tracks are a little bit slower and more alternative, but not by a ton, but the album does manage to end on a slightly different note than it started on, which is pretty nice. River Run and Less Than Thou are both pretty interesting tracks that don't sound quite the same as the rest of the album, although it's still pretty close. There's not a ton of variety here, but there is a little bit towards the end. So overall, a really great, really solid album. A lot of the songs sound similar, but they all sound pretty good. So there was one single released before the album, the opening track, Great No One, which is pretty good. Some of these songs I think were popular in their native New Zealand, but none of their work has gotten particularly big in the US at this time. So that goes for this album as well as future ones. My favorite track here is definitely middle of the album, Little Death. Probably the most upbeat song here, although it's pretty close. They're all pretty upbeat. Definitely the most pop-oriented track here, though, I would say. It and Happy Unhappy were probably the most likely to be sort of the popular hit singles, radio-friendly tracks here. As the first Beths album, it takes the only spot in the rankings for now. Definitely a really strong start, though. We'll see how they go. However, despite this, it doesn't take my top spot from 2018, although it definitely contests it. That stays with George Ezra's second album, Staying at Tamara's, which is nearly perfect and one of my favorite albums of all time. Basically, every song is good on that one. And it has the variety that Future Me Hates Me lacks. The fact that this debut album is in second or third place for this year is really incredible, though, because 2018 was a pretty good year. The Beths have definitely come out swinging with this one. Unfortunately, though, this is George Ezra's second album, and he has a little bit more of the experience to create something that's perfect instead of something that's really great, which is what Future Me Hates Me is. So thank you for watching. Next up is Sara Bareilles' 2020 soundtrack album, More Love, songs from Little Voice Season 1. I've never seen this show, but she's pretty heavily involved in it. The name is taken from her second studio album, and she did all the music, which is pretty good listening to it out of context of the show. So stay tuned for that, and as always, stay minty.